You've done everything to keep them around, haven't you? You've read every article, watched every video, been patient, kind, never angry, even when inside you were screaming from the pain of being emotionally abandoned. You texted first. You initiated the hard conversations. You forgave without apologies. You swallowed your needs every time they pulled away, disappeared, or treated you like you didn't matter. You taught them that you'll always be there, no matter how little they give. And without realizing it, you also taught them that they never have to change. The most painful part isn't that they didn't choose you. It's that they never had to learn how to keep you. The more you endured, the more they believed their avoidance was harmless. The more you sacrificed, the more they believe love didn't require responsibility. But real love isn't about learning to love them in the way that's most comfortable for them. Real love is when two people grow together, learning how to hurt each other gently, and then heal together. And for an avoidant to learn that, you have to be willing to do the one thing they fear most: disappoint them. Not to punish, but so they can finally understand for the first time in their life that love isn't control or avoidance or disappearing. It's staying even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's real. People with a dismissive, avoidant attachment style aren't afraid of love. They're afraid of the emotional cost that love brings. They're not afraid of closeness itself. What terrifies them is losing control, becoming emotionally dependent, and eventually being hurt. From a young age, they internalized quiet, unspoken lessons deeply wired into their nervous system. That having emotional needs is weakness. That needing someone is risky. That love equals pain. And most of all, if you let someone too close, they will disappoint you. For the avoidant, disappointment isn't just a passing emotion, it feels like a repeated trauma. It tells them that no one stays if they show who they really are. So they build a life of control, fine-tuned and intentional, always keeping a safe distance, investing just enough to keep the relationship from dying, but never enough for it to truly live. Avoiding clarity because clarity gives others power to let them down. They won't tell you they need you, but they'll expect you to sense it anyway. They won't initiate connection, but they'll want you to do it for them. They won't love you in a visible way, but they'll expect you to know they love you and never walk away. And if you're a sensitive person, especially if you lean anxious, you'll unconsciously start doing the emotional labor for both of you. You reach out. You make peace. You stay quiet when hurt. You understand their silence, all just to keep the illusion of connection alive. But can you see what's really happening here? You're no longer a partner. You've become an emotional caretaker for someone who's never learned to step fully into real intimacy. And the cycle continues. The more you love, the more exhausted you become. The more you tolerate, the more they believe avoidance is harmless. And the harder you try, the more you realize you're loving someone who never truly stays. And then you realize it's not that your love wasn't enough. It's that the way you've been loving has been fueling the very cycle that's draining you. The painful irony is, the gentler you are, the more understanding, the more careful not to upset them, the more you're reinforcing their inner belief. I don't have to change. They'll stay no matter how little I give. And in that moment when you feel exhausted by your own emotional maturity, when you start feeling like you're raising an emotional child in an adult body, you reach a turning point, a moment of insight. You don't need to love them in a way that keeps them comfortable. You need to love them in a way that helps them grow. And that begins with learning how to disappoint them. It sounds wrong, doesn't it? Because you've been taught that love means being kind, forgiving, endlessly accommodating. But with an avoidant partner, if you never let them feel the discomfort of losing the emotional privileges they've come to expect from you, they'll never have a reason to evolve. This strategy isn't punishment, it's intentional discomfort. It's the quiet decision to say, if you pull away, go silent, or stop investing, I will not chase. I will let you feel the emptiness you've always assumed was harmless. Avoidants only grow when they're forced to confront the space you've always filled. When you stop being the one to initiate every conversation. When you don't ask, are we okay, first. When you stay silent, not to be passive-aggressive, but to create a gap that reveals whether they're willing to step forward and meet you halfway. That's when they have to learn to initiate connection or face the reality that connection can fade when it's not nurtured. More than that, disappointing them in a strategic way teaches them something crucial. Disappointment is not destruction. Adults let each other down sometimes. Then they talk, they repair, they rebuild. They don't vanish. They don't ghost. They don't disappear for days and return like nothing happened. And the moment you stop protecting them from every emotional ripple, when you stop smoothing over every silence, every pullback, you begin to teach them that love isn't comfort, it's presence, especially when things feel uncomfortable. They need this experience to build emotional strength, to understand that they can disappoint you and you'll still be there, but with boundaries. That you can be disappointed, but you won't withdraw, won't abandon yourself, won't punish them either. You stay, but you don't fix it for them. You stay, but you don't disappear inside the relationship. And this, for the avoidant, is something they've rarely, if ever, experienced. Someone who holds the line without walking away. Someone who loves them without collapsing into them. When they realize this, a deep internal shift begins. They start to understand that relationships are no longer places where they have to be right, strong, and in control at all times, but spaces where they can simply be human, messy, insecure, flawed, and still worthy of love as long as they're willing to stay, take responsibility, and love without hiding. And once you realize that your limitless patience has become the cradle in which their emotional laziness grows, you begin to understand something critical. Love doesn't need to be comfortable to be sustainable. True love doesn't live in permanent safety. It lives in the moments where both people learn to endure each other's imperfections without retreating. It's at this point that the strategy of strategically disappointing an avoidant stops sounding confrontational and starts becoming an act of responsible love. The kind of love where you no longer carry someone else's emotions for them, but instead let them finally touch the wounds they've been avoiding their entire life. But how do you actually do this in a way that isn't cold, manipulative, or judgmental? Below are specific, grounded techniques, each one a quiet invitation for the avoidant to step out of their emotional isolation and meet the relationship as an emotionally responsible adult. Technique 1. Don't pursue when they withdraw. This is one of the hardest instincts to override, especially for anxious partners. You want to reach out, check in, say something kind that might melt the silence. But every time you do that, you reinforce the belief that they can disappear without accountability. Next time they pull away, let the space be there. Don't rush to fill it. Don't explain it away with your empathy. Let the silence have a presence for them. That space isn't a punishment, it's a transfer of responsibility for connection, and it gives them the opportunity to ask themselves, do I want to re-engage? And if they don't ask that question, you've already got your answer. Technique 2. State your needs and let them sit with their own reaction. Many people in relationships with avoidance have learned to self-edit. You downplay your needs. You speak vaguely. You understand too much. But needs that aren't voiced, can't be met and hidden, needs eventually become resentment. Instead, speak clearly. I need more consistency. I don't feel safe in this on and off pattern. Then, and this is key, let them feel whatever discomfort comes up. Don't immediately soften or take it back just because they react poorly. This is a necessary push. Relationships can't survive if only one person is allowed to feel uncomfortable. And if they can't handle your needs without shutting down, you've just uncovered something essential. Technique 3. Stop being the emotional container for both of you. They're used to you always being the one. Planning the dates, starting the conversations, bringing up the hard topics, smoothing things over after tension. But a relationship isn't a place where one person does all the emotional labor. From now on, let space exist where they would normally expect you to step in. If something is unresolved, let the awkwardness be there, not because you want to punish them, but because you want to see whether they're capable of stepping into emotional adulthood. If they don't engage, if they never initiate, you're seeing the truth of their investment, and you deserve to see it clearly. Technique 4. Hold on to your personal schedule. Few things make an avoidant feel less in control than when you don't drop everything, just because they suddenly feel like connecting. If you've made plans, keep them. If they call you out of the blue and want to hang out, be kind but firm. I already have plans today. Let's try another time. This isn't about playing games. It's about teaching them that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. Avoidants often expect that their withdrawal will be forgiven, and when they reappear, you'll always be there. When you don't do that, you create disappointment, but the kind that grows them, not the kind that wounds them. Technique number 5, be disappointed without blaming. Voicing your hurt doesn't make you weak, it makes you honest. Say it plainly. When you went silent for a week without explanation, I felt abandoned and really anxious. Don't yell. Don't guilt trip. Don't over-explain to protect their feelings. Just say the truth as you feel it, and then let them hold that truth. This is a moment of emotional maturity if they choose to face it. If they deflect, withdraw again, or minimize it, you've learned something you need to know. But if they step into the discomfort you've just created, space for transformation. All of these strategies have one thing in common. They ask you to stop protecting the avoidant from the very emotions they need to learn to manage. You're not here to heal them. You're here to love them without doing the work for them, to hold boundaries without turning them into walls, to allow disappointment without using it as punishment, and above all, to remain present without sacrificing your self-respect. As you begin to consistently apply these strategies, you'll come to a profound realization. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for an avoidant partner is to stop protecting them from the very emotions they need to learn how to face. Every time you choose not to reach out when they withdraw, every time you hold your boundary instead of backing down because they seem uncomfortable, every time you let the tension linger instead of rushing in to fix it, you're giving them back the emotional responsibility that was never supposed to be yours in the first place. And here's the paradox. It's in those very moments of disappointment when they're no longer shielded by your constant understanding that they finally begin to feel the real consequences of the avoidance you've always absorbed on their behalf. When you stop being the bridge for connection, they have to learn to walk toward it themselves. When you don't unravel their silence for them, they're left to ask, if I don't reach out, am I quietly destroying something I actually need? And if they never ask that question, well, now you have the clarity that your love had been masking all along. The important thing to remember is this. Avoidants don't change because you made things more comfortable for them. They change when what's familiar stops feeling safe. When their retreat no longer spares them discomfort, but instead starts to cost them something meaningful, that's when they're forced into the emotional growth they've been delaying their entire lives. And you, the one who dared to create that intentional discomfort, are not cruel. You're the only one who's ever taken their capacity for real connection seriously. And of course, the shift doesn't only happen for them. It happens for you too. When you set boundaries, when you stop chasing, when you allow silence to exist without shrinking inside of it, when you say, I feel disappointed without apologizing for it, that's when you come home to yourself, not the version of you that bends to be lovable, but the version that knows deep down, I don't have to lose myself in order to keep someone else. Yes, it hurts. Of course it does. There will be moments when you want to go back to the old way because it's more familiar, less risky. But this time you'll remember just how often that familiar comfort left you exhausted. How many nights you stayed up wondering what your silence meant to them. How many times you edited your truth just to keep the connection intact. How often you smiled when deep down you felt completely alone. And this time, instead of going back, you'll stay with yourself. You'll learn how to anchor into your own emotional steadiness even when things feel uncertain on the outside. And then it becomes clear. You're no longer the one holding the relationship together at all costs. You're the one inviting a relationship that requires equal responsibility or nothing at all. And if they choose to leave for good, that doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you were too cold or too distant. It doesn't mean you pushed too hard. It doesn't mean you disappointed them beyond repair. It means they weren't ready to love in a grown-up way, where love includes responsibility, where closeness doesn't require control, where disappointment leads to conversation, not disappearance. And you deserve a love where you don't have to abandon yourself just to keep it alive. A love where both people are present. A love where closeness doesn't make you shrink. A love where disappointment isn't a threat, but an opportunity for deeper honesty. A love where you're not carrying the connection, you're building it together. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. Truly. Not everyone has the courage to sit with the hard truths about love, avoidance, and their own patterns. If this video spoke to you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more emotional strategies, grounded insights, and healing conversations ahead for those who are ready to love with maturity, responsibility, and without losing themselves. Thank you for being here. And remember, Lasting love begins with how you treat your own heart.